On this channel, we tend to cover a lot of different videos, and one topic that just keeps coming up is this idea of cringe culture, autism cringe, disability cringe. This topic seems to be pretty common in people who are looking from the outside in on the autistic community, and it's been my mission to understand what their arguments are and why they do it, why they produce these videos. Although I've got a lot to say on it, I think we should get into our video today, which is a video from Sydney Zarlengo. Cringe culture, creepiness, and autism. Let's go for it.
Hello, my dears. I think that we're all collectively surprised that I've had my channel for this long.
Hooray! Another speech apraxic person like myself. Love it.
And not yet talked about cringe culture, but we're doing it. We've gotten here. Let's talk about it. Also, audio description for friends who may need it. I am a white person in my early 20s with brownish, blondish, curly hair. I am currently wearing a black sweater and a green flower with shirts on it. A green shirt with leaves on it. And I'm sitting in front of a bookcase.
Can I just say that this person seems like a very lovely person and very interesting, and I would definitely like to be friends with them.
That has books on it and some photos on the wall behind me. Not much has changed in my surroundings, and it's not going to change until early September. Now, before we get into the cringe culture discussion, we're going to talk about creepiness, because creepy and cringy often tie into each other on some level. And for this section, I read a research paper that was genuinely titled On the Nature of Creepiness. It was wild. I learned a lot. Kind of enjoyed it. Don't remember how I found it. It's just been sitting on my desktop for a year.
I don't know. My initial thoughts on the idea of creepiness is that it's not always something that you can necessarily change. Like, some people just make thin slice judgments based on very, very little information, based on like an aggregate of different factors, potentially due to past experience that they've had with someone who's similar to the creepy person. And potentially, you know, people who aren't necessarily all too confident with speaking in a certain environment. There are a lot of reasons to why people may be labelled as creepy, and it really depends on the person, doesn't it? So I feel like one person who interacts with me might think that I'm a bit creepy. The other person might think that I'm eccentric and interesting. I think it really depends on the person, and I think there's factors outside of what you say and how you act to why people might call you creepy. Let us not have a political discussion. Let's have an amnesty of not talking about politics today, please.
Which is very strange and weird, but I would recommend it, so I will link it in the description for you. Anyway, this study is from July 2015, and it had 1,341 participants, and they all found that creepiness is like the feeling in between disgusted and terrified. Basically, creepiness is an anxiety around the ambiguity of a situation as to whether there is a threat or not, and what that threat may potentially be. And we think of this as giving us chills or being cold because our body actually does make us feel cold when it puts us on guard. A 2012 study found that interactions with people who were showing inappropriate levels of nonverbal mimicry during social interaction produces an actual physical sensation of feeling.
Mimicry. So like somebody who like mirrors the behaviors and such that the other person is doing. Do you think maybe it's sort of an indicator for deception in a sense? Harry Baby says, I always tend to see myself as creepy or weird, but I'm more tolerant towards others. Yeah, I'm definitely weird. I don't know if I've never been called creepy, but I definitely say that I'm weird. I've been called many things in my life, but not creepy. Interesting.
Cold. So that was interesting. Didn't know about that. Now I do. Don't know how it's going to help me in life, but I know. It also talked about how an initial perception of an individual as creepy undoubtedly creates an impediment to comfortable future social interactions with that person.
Yes, the initial judgment.
So what we know thus far is that the feeling of creepiness is the feeling of, is this a threat or not? What do I do? And it freezes you in place. Literally, because you feel cold. So
I guess that would make sense considering, like, from what I've seen of AFAB individuals or people in general talking about, like, how men can come across as creepy. I don't hear as many guys using the word creepy to describe women in, like, dating concepts, but I've heard creepiness prop up quite a bit in like circles online to do with like characterizing men. That's quite interesting. I wonder if they've put the study in the description. Might have a look at it after. Oh, here we go. Scott Barry Kaufman on the nature of creepiness. We'll have a look at it after.
What then defines somebody as creepy? Well, get ready to feel really self-conscious, folks, because it's super spicy fun. So they found that people see males as more creepy than females. We're not talking about the issues of the binary right now. We've talked about that before. You can watch it up here. And the females were more likely to perceive creepy people as a sexual threat. That non-normative behavior and actions associated with unpredictability were almost always associated with higher perceptions of creepiness, and that occupations signaling a fascination with threatening stimuli would attract people more comfortable in said environment, and therefore the occupation is seen as creepier. Also related hobbies to said occupation. We're gonna start.
So hobbies and occupation can also be one. So does that mean that someone who works at like a morgue, would they be considered creepy? I guess they might be. I mean, to be honest, I'd be really interested to talk to people like that. Like people from very sort of odd, out there professions, I guess. It'd be really interesting to talk to people like that, but I think I'm a little bit biased in nature because I tend to gravitate towards things that are different. So uniqueness, eccentricness, just anything in general really like that just tends to attract me more than make me feel like that person is creepy. It's not very often that I feel like people are creepy, unless there is a particular sort of social display. You know, one that I would say is like if I'd been out to like a nightclub or something, you know, when I was a bit younger, and sort of seeing white shirted men sort of at the edge of the dance floor just like leering at like a group of women, that would make me feel a bit odd. Or if a guy's just really forward with like a lot of different people in like a gym environment, I think I'd probably say that gives me the creeps a little bit, but I'm not sure. Scooby Kitty Doo says, quote, "Some say that creepiness is an evolved response to ambiguity about the presence of a threat. In other words, feeling creeped out is a way to maintain vigilance when there is uncertainty." Thank you for that. Yeah, I mean, I can understand the protective nature of it, but I do imagine that, you know, this can lead to a lot of unfavorable outcomes for a lot of people, especially if we feel particularly sort of socially awkward, or we don't particularly understand like the particular social group dynamics and rules in like a certain place. I guess there is a potential of like autistic people being labeled as creepy because of that, which is really unfortunate. And I can sort of look back on my own life and think of times which that might have come across. I suppose it, you know, when we're having the conversation about thin sliced judgments, you know, those immediate sort of flash-like judgments that we make about people based on very, very little information, and like how someone looks and such very, very quickly, and how that's like unchangeable. You know, a lot of autistic people get labeled very unfavorably in those types of situations, get unfavorable thin sliced judgments. I imagine that, you know, this sort of creepiness might be applied to us in different circumstances. It's because we're deep and mysterious. Yeah. I understand it. I get it. It's like, if you're not familiar with something and it seems ambiguous, I can understand people being a bit hesitant, but it just sucks, doesn't it? We need some more like autism awareness and education for sure.
Start with the list of the 21 creepiest professions, because I found this list endlessly entertaining. There was not a table for the hobby section, but it did vaguely mention taxidermy and liking snakes in that category. So
snakes.
Just keep that in your brain. So here we go. Top to bottom, they rated creepiness on a scale of 1 to 5. I will put this on the screen over here for you as well. Here, let me scoot over a smidge.
Sorry, Slytherins.
So, I am falling off this chair. First creepiest was clown at 3.71, closely followed by taxidermist at 3.69, then sex shop owner at 3.32, funeral director at 3.22, taxi driver at 2.86, unemployed 2.83, clergy 2.
Taxi driver. Do you think the taxi driver one is just based on like personal experiences? Unemployed? That's apparently creepy. That's weird. I understand clown and taxidermist, and like clown is just generally something that makes a lot of people unnerved. Taxidermist, I understand you're sort of messing with passed away animals. Sex shop owner is kind of obvious. It's a bit sort of taboo when I guess some people might. Funeral director, obviously, like, it's to do with people passing away. That makes sense. What's the clergy? Creepy tends to be an intuitive judgment. Yeah. I mean, that's the whole thing about, like, thin slice judgments. I mean, how can you accurately make an assumption or, like, understand who someone is based on 7 seconds of meeting them? You just can't. Like, I mean, it might be useful in some certain situations, I guess, for if you're very sort of, I guess, aware of, like, the traits of negative stuff in people, but in a lot of cases, you know, you just can't. So, snakes are creepy. They're missing out. I know. Yeah. Unemployed. I know. What is a clergy? Hello, PM. How you doing? I live in Uncanny Valley. Yes, me too.
2.57. Janitor 2.51.
Janitor.
Garbage collector 2.25. Guard.
I feel like janitor and garbage collector is just like, I don't know. It feels a bit judgy based on. Is it just because they're messing with, like, waste and stuff like that? I don't know. Then you would. I don't know. Trying to understand. Trying to pick this apart. What about an unemployed clown? Oh, a guard? Maybe that's just because of, like, the innate amount of aggression or sort of experiences that you can have with figures of authority, maybe.
At 2.18, writer at 2.14,
Writer?
actor 2.13, construction worker and computer software engineer were 2.
Writer? What people got against writers? Do people think I'm creepy because I like writing? I guess so. Actor, that kind of makes sense. Like, if you're very good at crafting your outward exterior to appear a certain way, might make you a bit better at, like, manipulation, I guess. Construction worker, I feel like that's, like, a stereotypical thing. Like, people that you know. Computer software engineer, no idea why. Maybe it's because people associate it with, like, quite introverted individuals. I don't know. Thomas' intuition is very helpful, though. There are many stories of getting an intuitive feeling about a guy and later to discover that they're a serial person. Yeah, I understand what you mean. That's why I made that caveat earlier. I do get that. You just made me realise I'm actually creepy. Don't. Clergy is a reverend or a minister of a church. I think that's, again, like a stereotypical based thing. I mean, all of this, like, making creepiness ratings based on occupations is, in a sense, stereotypy, isn't it?
0.09, cafeteria worker 2.08, financial advisor 1.78, doctor 1.77, college professor 1.67, farmer 1.65, teacher 1.67, meteorologist 1.53. And first of all, what kind of conglomerate?
That's so strange. I think to be honest, I think this is just, it's based on, like, either your own experiences with people with these types of occupations, something to do with the actual aspect of the occupation, or to do with, like, I don't know if I said this, like, stereotypes of what people are like based on, like, movies and TV shows and stuff. Some of these may be due to horror films. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, you know, conditioning from things that they've seen, or, you know, stereotypes that the meteorologists. Yeah, I have no idea.
Of occupations is that. Second of all, why is mortician not on this list? Or detective?
Yeah.
Or a scientist? Because who knows what they're up to? Geologists are out there licking rocks. They should be on the creepy list. But anyway, in all seriousness, I find it very interesting that there is a clear class division here. People in occupations that are typically seen as higher class or higher education, such as teacher or doctor or software engineer, were significantly less creepy than writers and taxi drivers and janitors and the unemployed. So keep that one in mind. We're going to get back to that point in a little bit. Now, what else do we find creepy?
All right,
when it comes to appearance...
So that wasn't, like, the top creepiness ones. That was just, like, a comparison of different occupations based on the level of creepiness that they show. And someone made an interesting comment here. So he finds the fear of clowns stems from not being able to see their facial expressions due to their makeup. We can't see their true faces and therefore cannot understand their emotional intent. I think that kind of makes sense. I mean, it's the same with people who are masked, isn't it? I guess, like, you're going to be a bit more wary of people who are masking the self.
Some of the major things cited were, again, you're about to feel really uncomfortable. Dirty clothes, greasy hair, strange smile, bulging eyes, unkempt hair, and dressed oddly. With behavior, it's standing either too far or...
I mean, she's just basically described me as a teenager. Maybe not the bulging eyes, but yeah. That
Too close from the person,
early
laughing
days,
at unpredictable times in the conversation, relentlessly steering the
that's
conversation
me.
to one topic, showing too much or too little emotion, appearing anxious, too much or too little eye contact, touching the person a lot, unpredictable movements or tics, and making it nearly impossible for someone in a situation with them to leave without seeming super, super rude. And I think now you understand where autism ties into this.
Yeah, I was just going to say. Oh dear. So creepiness equals autism? Is that what this study's showing? I mean, it's not true, but I guess like it would explain why people can have varied negative responses based on very little information, based on very little amount of communication with us. Obviously, this is a heavily subjective thing. You know, it doesn't necessarily mean that someone is creepy. It's that they don't. I guess they don't understand, or there's a sense of ambiguity to it. You know, which makes sense. I mean, it's just more and more evidence to why we need more autism awareness in education. Walking away without saying away is called an Irish goodbye, and that's what I do. Creepy to me is when I sense someone is having malicious intent, and that's based on several things like how they treat people and if they're very intrusive or something. Yeah, me too. Yeah, but that's but I'm an autistic person, and I understand that people are different. I think people can just be a bit too unlogically wary of like different behavior, I guess, in some respects. Don't like masks at Halloween; they make me feel uncomfortable. Yeah, me too. Malicious intent is definitely creepy, but also just simply the unknown aspect of it too. When I'm not sure if someone is being malicious or not, that's creepier than actually directly being harmful. Yeah, well, that makes sense. It's kind of the line between what they were saying, the line between disgust and fear, I guess. I have to say, like, when it's like through my life, like I always make the utmost greatest effort to not appear creepy. Like in any situation, like it's a worry, you know. So now from my prior experiences, particularly in secondary school, that I've received sort of not directly called creepy, but received reactions which fall in line with that, which had an impact on my self-esteem for sure.
Basically, creepiness is based on perceived threat, which is typically based on unpredictability. And unpredictability generally means not following social norms, which autistic people either don't or can't, usually a combo. So, as we talked about earlier with the class division in occupation, a lot of the ability to mask in the sense of not seeming creepy has absolutely nothing to do with our actual masking skills. It pretty much entirely has to do with privilege, something that, for me, as a white, thin, conventionally attractive, typically seen as a woman, despite not being one, human, would be seen as quirky and cute and scatterbrained, and would be seen as terrifyingly threatening in a black man. I mean, we see absent-minded professor people in medicine all the time, and we don't...
I wouldn't find... I don't find any of that creepy, really. Like, maybe the making me feel like I can't leave aspect is a little bit, you know, or they're making inappropriate comments about me and such, or they're like stepping over my boundaries a little bit. That's what I would find creepy. The other stuff, no. Like, it's fine. Like, especially if you're in like at a social event with like other people and you're meeting different people, like, you know, I feel. But again, like, I suppose I'm talking from my own perspective. You know, it's not often that I feel fearful due to my stature and sort of being, I guess. What's up, my goat? Hello, Mantis. Me and my friends were called weirdos in secondary school just because we didn't eat lunch in a stuffy cafeteria. That's weird. They should just say, "Oh, are they non-binary?" Apologies if I didn't know. Oh, they're gender fluid and they're gay and they're mostly human. Apparently, interesting. Their handle is the autistic lesbian.
Bat an eye because doctors who are geniuses are allowed to just be weird and eccentric. But then when you see, I don't know, a food service worker acting the same way, you typically will find that to be creepy and off-putting. And to quote Dr. Devin Price, I will link his Instagram for you in the description because he's delightful. This is really chilling because I know so many neurodivergent people who have to put extensive effort into not seeming angry, scary, intense, creepy, etc. constantly because white supremacy, fat phobia, etc. mean that they never get the benefit of the doubt. Now, on the bright side, the study did...
I mean, to be honest, like I'd say that in adulthood, like with interactions that I have with people, generally they think that I'm a bit quirky for sure. But I tend to be labeled with, like, I guess the more neutral, positive ways of saying that I'm different, I guess. Because I definitely don't follow social norms. I am, I guess, unpredictable, but I've never been, like, outed or called something like that, you know? So no, it's not really, I say quirky, you know? That's kind of the characterization that people have of me, I guess. Need sleep? Oh, see you later, Harriet. Try not to judge people in general. I think that's a good way to be for you, to be honest.
Specifically note that the majority of people don't necessarily assume ill intentions from creepy people and believe that most creepy people have no idea they're being creepy. But we will also still likely worry that they are dangerous. And that makes logical sense, because you don't want to absolutely sprint away from every human you come across who's a little odd or a little unpredictable, but you also don't want to just, like, willingly stay in the situation if your gut feeling is telling you that maybe it might not be safe. And that's really difficult. And I also think this is a good time to talk about that thing in the autism community that we all pretend doesn't exist, but then we all whisper behind closed doors and we all know very much exists. Autistic people often find other autistic people more creepy than non-autistic people would find those people. Why? Because autistic people tend to be aware that we miss social cues, and that missing social cues puts one automatically at risk in social situations, and therefore our guard is always higher in social interactions with new people than it would be for the average non-autistic person.
I feel like it's a very general thing to say. I've never had that thought at all. I'd say that in general, I mean, as I said, like I don't really get the feeling of fear or creepiness from people very often, to be honest. But I don't think so. I don't know if that's right. Do you guys feel that way? I don't know about that. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. Which
means that we can, as autistic people, sometimes seem outwardly the most discriminatory towards other people in our community because...
No, I feel like we are generally a lot more wary around people who aren't autistic. I don't know. Most of the interactions that I've had in real life and just like over social media, and you know, when I've talked to autistic people, it's usually that we feel a lot more comfortable around autistic people. I don't know where this has come from. I mean, like, I understand the logic of it being that, you know, we have experienced a lot of negative things with people, and therefore our guard's more up, and therefore we feel more fearful. Maybe the talking specifically, but I mean, are there any AFAB individuals in the chat who can? You definitely don't feel that way, Isabella. Sarah says, never felt that way, usually just guarded. I don't think people are creepy. Yeah, I feel like we're less likely to make those judgments, to be honest. No problem, Paula. I wish it was normal to see someone as human first and labels last. Yeah. Mantis says, I think being late diagnosed and thus educating yourself later in life contributes to this mindset a lot. What, to my mindset or their mindset? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I can agree with that.
We have trauma, and I've had several people talk to me about this before, and we were never really able to explain it in a logical manner, other than maybe we're more ableist than we thought, and we're dividing people into functioning levels, and ooh, I hate it, and I want my brain to stop doing this. But in the realm of creepiness, it actually does make a lot of sense, and we're going to find things extra creepy if we have trauma related to miscalculating social cues, because the definition of creepy is weird social cues. So I think that what we can learn from this is that you're not a terrible person if you have a hard time.
I mean, I feel like it's definitely something that you need to address if you feel that way and you're aware of, like I understand that they're being open about something that, you know, could be potentially controversial about their sort of opinions and thoughts, but you know, I acknowledge that and I appreciate that they're speaking their mind, but no, in the same vein, I feel like it should be pretty intuitive, like understanding that stuff and trying to. But then again, it's an emotional response, I guess. That's what they're saying. I don't know. I'm not sure. I feel like when I was younger and I didn't have so much awareness about autism, I'd probably be more likely to label people as creepy because of autistic traits, but in adulthood, definitely not. You know, Anna says, I observe behavior. Someone has to do or say something really inappropriate for me to consider them creepy. Same. Here's a question, Thomas. Being introverted due to autism, do you think it's unfair to be labelled as creepy with that? I think it's unfair to be labelled creepy in general because you're autistic. I understand it. I understand why people do it. But I don't think it's a warranted. I mean, it's hard to say, oh, your emotional reaction isn't warranted, because it's not really something that you can control all the time. But I do think there is some factors of trying to like delve into what exactly you are feeling and why, and trying to address it. I think like that could definitely impact your future reactions to people like that. Yeah, my mate with ADHD picks up on people like that.
Time socializing with other autistic people, that they make you a little bit uncomfortable, because it is ingrained in all of us on some level, and it's your brain, unfortunately, but also fortunately, trying to keep you safe from emotional or physical harm, just in a slightly over-the-top, silly goose manner, if that makes any sense. Either way, regardless of your neurotype, creepiness is something to be aware of, for sure. You should definitely pay attention to feeling uncomfortable and try to figure out why that may be. But also figure out if that is warranted, or if it's just internalized biases that are preventing you from making some pretty awesome friends. But also... Yes,
I think that's a very, very good roundup to that. It's okay to have emotional-based judgments of people. Just try and, obviously, like, it depends on what those judgments are based on, but try to get a bit better of an understanding about it and understand why, I guess. Yeah, you've got to be safe, for sure. Yeah. I feel like I can't read the intent due to being autistic. Sadly, I've been taken advantage of twice by a narcissist NT, or not ND. That's only my case, moral of the story. Hello, Nicholas Klaus. Hello, Jordan. Good to see you. Yeah, I think that's a good roundup. It's the same thing that I talk about with, like, just people in general making thin-sliced judgments about autistic people. Just try and become a little bit more educated about what people like autistic people can be like, and I mean it's okay and it's perfectly natural to make judgments and feel emotions from those judgments that we sort of make naturally, but it's about what we do with that counts, I believe.
Don't put yourself in unnecessary danger, because no. Now that we have creepiness figured out, let's talk about cringe culture. I was not able to find any hard research on cringiness, but that is okay, because I don't know where that last paper came from anyway, and there's more cultural conversation about cringe culture, so there's still a lot to talk about. Basically, cringe it's creepiness without the anxiety portion. Kind of. Like, with creepiness, it's a safety concern. With cringiness, it's a comfort or awkwardness concern. Things that are cringy are things that are out of the social norms in a secondhand embarrassment kind of way. Some common examples of cringy things are Disney adults, picky eaters, baby queers, furries. By the way, by baby queers, if you're not in the community, those are the ones who always wear pride-related things in their person at all times and love rainbows. We're not going to go into what makes things cringy, because unlike creepiness, which could sometimes be a bit of a safety issue, cringiness is usually just they're enjoying something that's out of the norm, and I am gonna judge them for it because it makes me feel better about myself because I'm more normal than that.
I come across, to be honest, in the realm of cringe, like I do come across particularly when I've made content around sort of the idea of disability and autism cringe, that there is probably a hefty amount of diagnosed or undiagnosed autistic people who find autistic behaviors creepy and cringy, and so sort of I guess perhaps maybe due to their own experiences in life of being labelled as such, and them wanting to like mask and be a part of like a group of people, and so they sort of take on the other role in order to distance themselves from how they are and their own behaviors and interests and stuff. Maybe I could be thinking about it too much, but I feel like maybe when stuff like that hits home a little bit, if it seems like in the realm of things that you could possibly be like, that maybe it gives you more of a reaction to like call people out and say that they're cringe and such. I don't know if I'm making much sense or communicating my point across in the best way. Is anyone else feeling rotten today? It's good to have some virtual company. I'm sorry to hear that, Skimpy. It's good to see you, though.
And I don't like that. I don't want it to exist. Those weirdos are happy, and their happiness does not hurt you. It does not hurt anybody else or impact your life at all whatsoever. Just leave them to exist and be weird. Weird is great. And by spending our time judging these cringy things, we're ignoring the actual source of the problem. The fact that so many people don't get to live their lives as their full identities, and...
I don't know, because I feel like, because we were talking about creepiness, it feels like the separation between cringe and creepiness is, as I said, like the fear-based stuff. Isn't it similar, I guess, in a sense? Obviously, like the aspects of fear make it a bit more of a personal sort of dilemma when you're actually in a situation like that, but it doesn't feel all that different. Like, you're still, I guess, typecasting people based on very little information, you know.
Do all the lovely little things that their weird hearts want to do because they don't have access to accepting communities or resources in order to find them. For example, your average baby gay that is supposedly cringy, they're that way because they've been told for their whole life or felt for their whole life that something was wrong with them or just off. And now they finally discovered that they are normal and that they aren't alone. So of course they're going to hold onto that identity for dear life and flaunt it as best that they can. Disney adults are often people who didn't get the chance to have the childhood that they dreamed of, so they're doing it now. And also often Disney characters were the only people or animals that they felt a kinship with growing up. I know for a lot of autistic people, Disney is a comfort thing. Picky eaters probably just have some sort of sensory issue, and they're able to handle it when they have control over their own food. All of these cringy things are just actually ways of coping with an unaccepting world, just for us to promptly not accept them yet again. And that's really sad, especially because these kinds of things are pretty much accepted if the person you're laughing at for being cringy tells you that they're autistic. As if their diagnosis somehow suddenly makes their weirdness acceptable, but then everybody else without the diagnosis is bad. And again, the autism...
Yeah, it's like, you're not autistic, you're not strange. Wait, what was the I remember someone making a comparison, like, between, like, the way that people talk about, like, autism and quirkiness and such. Or, like, in the same way of people labeling things about you that are sort of quirky and strange, they will in the same breath say that you're not autistic because you're not. I can't remember exactly what it was. Not doing a very good job of explaining it, to be honest. Hello, Tony. Good to see you. Good to see you.
The autism community can often be the worst perpetrators of this because we are so used to being teased and left out for being weird that sometimes it can feel like a little bit of a relief to laugh at the different weird group, or at least think to yourself, well, at least I'm not like that. And again, that's likely a trauma response.
I don't know. I don't know about autistic people. Maybe they're a part of a different group than me because I don't see that. I mean, if anything, I don't know. It's not really something that I've seen, to be honest. What do you guys think? B says, I wonder if some of the feelings of cringe come from watching someone do something we feel could put them at risk. As a queer person, the baby gay makes me uncomfortable due to outdated perceptions of risk. Yeah, I was queer in the 90s when that was quite risky. I see. Yeah. That's, I guess so. I think as well, like, we've just got to, I guess, pay attention to the fact that people like laughing at other people. Like, some people just get enjoyment out of it, which it sucks. Which is sure, but, you know, you can go part of any group and, you know, there are going to be a certain group or type of people, even for that group, that they find to be, like, cringy or strange and such, you know. Just, like, I'll just give an example. Maybe not what give that example, considering, like, the current political stuff. Right, you go to, like, a I don't know, like a chess club, yeah, and they think the sports people are, like, cringy, and then you go to a sports bar and they think that people who enjoy board games are cringy. You know what I mean? Like, it depends on you. I guess it's a very subjective thing. Thank you very much, DBM. We try to be very chill. It is a vibe. Response
to being continuously rejected or teased for being weird. Everybody gets caught up in the feeling of finally being accepted by somebody at the cost of other people every once in a while, and it happens regardless of neurotype, especially when you're younger. But it's important that we recognize those things, and that we recognize why certain things may make us feel uncomfortable, and try to unpack.
Yeah, I guess so. I knew somebody who I do believe was a little bit neurodivergent. I'm not sure what. Didn't really have much interaction with them. But they used to get bullied a lot by, like, a particular group of kids at school. And basically the way that they stopped that was by targeting and bullying another person. And so this person got integrated into the group of the people who were bullying them, and then they bullied somebody else. I can understand that. I've seen that before. Oh, no problem, DBM. It's nice to see you, though. Nice that you're flying in. Yeah, I think a lot of the time, I don't think it's the desire to make fun of and, like, you know, call things cringe and stuff. You know, sometimes people just don't have it so out of their own sort of experience in life that it doesn't really dawn on them the impact that they could have on other people in that way. And then there are people who are who have experienced it and do understand it, who just have malicious intent and they just don't care. And then there's another type of people who have experienced it and are just happy that it's not happening to them. So they want to like divert it, you know. They feel somewhat empowered to do that as other people have done it to them, I guess. Cringe is like the salt in the wound that is self-criticism. Seeing someone act in a way you never dare to do kind of hurts, and laughing as a sort of defense mechanism. I guess you can see it like that. I think there are a lot of different ways and reasons to why people do that, you know. I think it's a very common... It's like the whole thing with bullying, just in general. Like, people always say, oh, well, the bullies they're doing that because they have a bad life and stuff. And I guess that there may be some people who are like that, but definitely not everybody. I know some people who have great lives who, you know, just very frequently, like, just all the time bullied people just because they found it funny, you know?
Pack that so that we can become friends with more members of our community and more weird people, because I love weird people. So I guess that's sort of thesis of this video. Feeling creeped out and secondhand embarrassment by people, that's normal. That's natural. That's how our brains try to protect us from the occasional axe murderer. And that gut feeling is sometimes right, and you are so allowed to feel uncomfortable. But it's also important to check that gut feeling and see if we feel that way because the person we're interacting with does genuinely feel threatening, or if they just aren't allowed to follow traditional social norms. Because a person shouldn't need to say that they're autistic for you to accept them as weird. Yeah. As weird as they may be. Because, first of all, undiagnosed people exist. And also, because you should just be kind and accepting.
I don't actually think people think that it changes their mind about whether they view them as creepy. I just think that when someone tells them that they're autistic, and that's maybe the reason why they find them creepy or cringy, I think it's more just that they feel a sense of social shame because of the way that they've treated you. Or the way that they've characterized you because of that, because it kind of sheds light on the reality that I think that's probably why people sort of switch up on in that sense.
Or what? And non-autistic people should also be allowed to be weird. But also, again, don't seek out danger. Keep yourself safe. That's always a priority. But when you feel uncomfortable, ask yourself why that may be. Because the weird, the creepy, the cringy, these all just target people for...
Depending on the situation. You know, if you find someone creepy in like a back alley somewhere, perhaps the best to like, you know, take it quite seriously. But if you're at like a social gathering and there's like loads of people around and there's someone else who's like dressed similarly and just kind of comes in and talks to you and you find them a bit creepy, perhaps like definitely check yourself a little bit. You know,
expressing themselves. And those people are typically the ones who have identities or experiences out of the norm, and the ones who are challenging the oppressive normative systems that we have in place in an effort to not sound like a social justice warrior. But like, think of drag queens and gender bending people paving the way for the queer community, for example. Accepting them and all of their weirdness into the fabric of society liberates all of us. So, with that, thank you for listening. Thank you for learning. Remember, it's never too late to start over. Please be kind to one another, and I look forward to seeing you, my dear, in the next one.
I mean, definitely an interesting video for sure. I think they brought up a lot of things that I didn't know. Like, when it comes to, like, creepiness and cringe culture and obviously, like, how it ties into autism. I do think that some of the, I guess, experiences that they had and the conversations that they have had with other autistic people don't necessarily align with my own sort of experiences. But I guess it'd just be interesting to hear what you guys think of that. And a very decent video. Very much awesome. Please make sure to go check out their channel, Sydney Zarlengo. Give the video a like. The link to it's always going to be in the description. So please show them as much support as possible if you've enjoyed this. And please make sure on your way out, give it a like and consider subscribing to your boy. If you want to go check out my original content channel where I post 2 videos a week, usually on some really cool topics, you can check that out also in the description. And yeah, hope you're doing well. Enemy seen ferociously handing the Mordor and slamming herbs into the chop block. Yeah. Let's make some potions. We must supply Sauron with the mystical elixirs to power his orc army.